some of the difficult things and...
All right. Well, challenges. The Zambezi River on its own, it's a challenge. You know, it's the best day trip you can ever do anywhere on the planet. It's graded as a grade 5 river. Now, coming from my childhood to that middle-aged time when I started, doing this rafting thing, was a challenge on its own. To start taking the rafts on the river, on the multi-day trip where we started taking the gear boat down, even before you have a client on your boat, on its own, was a challenge. Okay. To the time that we started taking clients down the river, that was a huge challenge. I mean, not saying it what, but we were the first, me and Simon, we were the first Africans to start taking clients down the Zambezi River, and that was a huge challenge on its own. From what we had learned to the period of time to the time that we started taking clients down, the most important thing that you think of it when you're on the river. My first trip, I followed him down the river. Okay, it's clients. I mean, you look around about your people, you think about the safety of your people, you think about how much you're going to put a smile on your people from the start of the trip all the way down to the end of the trip. You want to educate your people about the surrounding and knowing who you are and where you are and what part of the world they are on at about that time. All that comes up in a package of a challenge on its own.
Yeah, and it's difficult because they are foreigners, and they are looking at you. There is a cultural difference.
There is a culture difference. Sorry to say at about that time too, there is a color difference. You know, and all that kind of adds up to you. It's a little bit of pressure that stays inside you
the whole trip.
The whole trip. But you keep praying to yourself to say, I hope I do it as I'm told. And I actually did it as I was told. We ran a stretch of 10 kilometers that time. We're running from rapid number 1 all the way down to rapid number 10. That's our day trip used to run. And as it is, being a grade 5 river, it's the biggest whitewater you can ever do on the planet. That gets your heart pumping on its own. Now, by the time you get those clients hop onto your raft, you brief them all about your safety. At that time, we used to take what we call oarbot, where you have these 2 wooden sticks right up on there. You've got a metal frame right down on the center part. You've got a little wooden stick up on there. You're the only one person that steers the raft. Okay, and all what your people do in the raft, we used to do what we called high siding. And high siding was all about throwing your body weight into the wave side as you run on down the rapids. And that's what you tell your people in the raft. You've got one major line on the side of the raft that everybody grips onto it nice and tight. Okay, and you tell them when to throw the body weight into one side of the rapid at the same time. And that's how we used to keep our raft upright. I followed my boss. Bob, I followed him all the way down. We ran smooth all the way down from rapid number 1 to rapid number 7. And then, he briefed me on top of 7. He said, follow my line. Don't mess up. And I indeed followed his line. We all ran okay, because this rapid is like divided into 3 parts. No, there's the first part, actually, where you're coming through these little waves and then you kind of crash them up. On the left side of it, there's what we call the crease. It's a drop of nearly 6 foot or so. What you try to do is try to sneak up onto the right side of it. And we all did smooth on that. And then we came on down into the second part of it, which is called the gap. Okay. And there's a rock up on the edge of it. And then Bob went straight up on that rock and hugged it up, and then the whole entire raft went over. They asked me to follow him. It wasn't intentionally, but I happened to be on the same rock and I flipped as well.
Wow.
So we ran down on the bottom side.
You did what you were told.
We ran down at the bottom side called Land of the Giants on an upside down raft. Wow. But we managed to pull our people back up on top of that raft. We went all the way down to 7.5. And then he goes, what happened? I was like, followed your line, sir, just exactly you told me. But everybody was okay, everything ran smooth. We got our raft back upright and we continued running down the river. Okay, but the challenges were there still. We, in the early days, would run one rapid and stop at one class 5 and scout it and have a look at it. We used to portage 2 rapids at that time in the 80s. There was rapid number 5. It's called Stairway to Heaven or Highway to Hell. What did we call it that time?
10 Kwacha Tightrope.
10 Kwacha Tightrope.
Okay,
that's what it was called. And we used to walk around that rapid, we line the raft around that rapid. And the other one was rapid number 9, which is totally called commercial suicide. But that one, up to now, is still called commercial suicide. It's a class 6 rapid, and we still don't do it.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Okay.
Okay. But Bob brought in a change for rapid number 5, you know. He came in as a new person in the whole system. We all stopped at top of rapid number 5. We all walked up on the number of guides. We all had a look at rapid number 5. I mean, most of us as locals, we had to look at it, but a lot of what we are seeing down there is probably a whole lot of Whitewater. Okay. But learning from these guys as they were talking, said, no, you can use that tongue, you can use that tongue, hit up on the wrist tail, and boom, drop straight down into the mancha. That's a straight line if you can get it. If you can get it. Okay. So as we sat up on them, all guides sat down, had a little bit of a talk, and Bob came up and said that he wanted a number of people to join up on that trip, see if they can run rapid number 5.
So you were not running it before that?
Nope, it was not run before that. Okay. Now, a little surprising because I thought really the first people to say, go, I want to do it, would be his fellow guides.
Yeah.
That's what we all thought, you know. But his fellow guides, actually, they had an interest of watching.
Not doing it.
Not doing it. Okay. So myself, the late Simon, Kayata Dabi, and Jimmy Kambukwe, well, we said, well, might as well take a chance, see how it goes.
With Bob.
With Bob. Okay. So Bob was on the stick. Myself, Simon, and Dabi were in the front of the raft, and Jimmy was in the back end of the raft. Like I said, at that time there were only oarboards. Now the way rapid number 5 is shaped is so funny. It's got a huge pour over on one end of it, like on the far right side of the river facing downstream. A little bit of a creek on the left side that you don't really want to do. And we said, whatever fuck up you do, don't go over the pour over. That's what the saying was. Okay? The 10 Kwacha Tightrope, which is a line which sneaks right up onto the side here, which is a line that you want to take. And then that's when you hit up this massive mancha right up on the front end. Okay? So we walked up onto the raft, we all hopped onto the raft, Bob was on the stick. So he had to do his thing. He did his thing all the way up onto the top end, and then we had a number of the guides on shore. And actually, I think someone was giving directions from the top, wasn't he? Saying, come this way, move that way, come this way, move that way.
Wow.
And the only thing we probably remember was, oh shit. And we went straight over the pour over. I mean, the 4 of us didn't really have so much of an idea of what the whole shit was all about. But we went straight over this pour over into the huge mist of Whitewater. Okay, where you couldn't even see nobody in there. And at that time we were using bucket boards. By the time we were through to the bottom end of rapid number 5, you can easily swim from one end of the raft to the other end because the whole raft was full of water.
Wow.
Okay. But it was so much confusing because all it was just white water. We didn't know where we are, and next thing you'd see is Bob's legs up in the air and he's still hanging on to his sticks.
The boat had not flipped.
The boat never flipped.
Wow.
Everybody was still in the raft.
Wow.
Okay. So
that's fantastic.
It was, you know. And that time, I think that going over the pour over actually taught the guys on shore who were watching where the line was. And that made the whole change of rapid number 5. And since then, rapid number 5 has been ran and is graded as a class 5 rapid, no question about that.
Wow.